Welcome to Nkosi Talk Shows. Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Challenges we have had to overcome in 2020.
Find your own voice.
The world has become united by the unseen, knowing there are no guarantees for tomorrow.
Lead from within.
Find your own voice.
Let the world hear your voice and be filled within.
For the day has come for you to be a great leader.
The time has come to break away from the pain, distraction, experience the unthinkable.
Welcome to Nkosi Talk Shows, everyone. The time has come for you to find your own voice, lead from within. My name is Nomsa Clara Mnzi. I am the founder of Hope Spring Eternal Introduction Agency and the founder of Nkosi Talk Show. I am a love feminist. Today with me, I have lovely Carol Ann. Carol Ann, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Ooh, yes, and as my phone slides away from it's going like good afternoon, and hopefully you're able to stay with us whether you're watching live or on replay, and things don't start sliding away from you as my phone started to do just then. So yes, I'm Carol Ann, and as the writing facilitator, what I do is I support soul-driven entrepreneurs becoming more productive with their writing. And for some reason, this doesn't want to stay. I don't know why. It normally behaves. So something's not behaving today. Like my laptop won't behave. And maybe, you as a soul-driven entrepreneur, your words don't behave, your writing doesn't behave, your story doesn't flow, and you just can't seem to get that book written. So that's what I help you to do by unlocking the writer within so that you can get that book written, so you can get your story written, because you cannot publish what isn't written. And all of this has come about through my own journey of unlocking the writer within. So lovely to be here today. I can see today's going to be one of those fun days. Let's use the word fun rather than challenging.
Yes.
I think
we didn't start well. We always have technical problems, but we always get there in the end, don't we?
Yeah. And I think that's one of our mutual principles.
Yeah.
We keep going. We make sure, we'll get there in the end.
We don't get frustrated. We just get on. We just say, whatever will be, let it be.
Yep. Find a way. Find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you make it work? Yes. Yeah. So
our
topic, yeah. Go for it.
It's a very, very good topic, how to create business principles. And basically, business principles are created by a leader. As a leader, you have to know where you're going. You have to know your values. You have to know your business beliefs. And then from there, the business is created based on the leadership, because you can't, if you don't know who you're going to serve, if you don't know how you're going to serve people, then you wouldn't know how to create your principles for your business. So that's what I believe. And a business leader, you have to lead with your eyes open as well, because if you're blind, then you wouldn't know where you're going, and you wouldn't serve people properly. So as a leader, you have to basically have open eyes. What is going on in the world? Like right now, what is going on? Everyone is complaining about pandemic. Somebody have open eyes. They are like, what can I do? They see opportunities. So many principles, business is created and principles are created. So over to you, Carol Ann. I would love to hear those who are watching, please type how, I know some people have their own businesses, and how do you understand business principles? Please just get involved within the conversation. So, Carol Ann, please take the stage.
So, yes, I'd love to hear other people's views on this and what their principles are and what their values are. Because in looking this up, interestingly enough, I heard somebody use the word the other day, and it was to do with a conversation that they were having with somebody, and they realized that the clash that was happening and the lack of or the misunderstanding that was going on was because one had one set of principles and the other had another guiding principle. And once he was able to see that and understand where this other person was coming from, all of a sudden the fight went out of it, because he was able to respond to what this other person was saying, but then also bring it back to what he was talking about. And so create more of a dance in the conversation and feel, so all the frustration went out of the conversation. It was so beautiful to hear. And and this reminds me of a phrase where it says, the one who is the most flexible controls the conversation. And so, where are you open to listening to someone else's point of view, to listening to where someone else might be coming from? And it doesn't mean that you change your views or your values or your principles. You just understand where someone else is coming from without making them wrong. And principles, I started to look it up, because principles and values, I'm still a little bit, I've read a few things about it, and there's still a bit of conflicting information as far as I can see. And maybe I need to do a bit more in-depth looking at it. But the main thing is, principles are rules and they are set. They don't change. And values are much more flexible and they can change, but they're very much intertwined. Principles and values rely on each other and they feed each other. So, for example, you may have a value of honesty. Your principle would be never telling lies. So there's just a subtle difference between the two. And that's where I think the subtlety sort of comes in, and it is being able to understand the subtleties between the two things. So values are qualities or standards that govern the behavior of a person. And principles are rules or beliefs that govern our action. So behavior, action, again, it's play with words, isn't it? And I think this is something that's always, or was always, a point of where I would give up and go, oh, for heaven's sake, this just gets too much, because words can be interchanged. There's a very subtle meaning or difference between words. And sometimes people use a word to mean one thing, but you see it as something else. And that's something that I've now come to appreciate by unlocking the writer within myself and understanding words more and being able to dive into them and look at the different nuances. It's certainly helped me to just go, okay, there are subtle differences and it's okay. Someone may use one word and someone else may use another word. And it's okay to discuss it and talk about it. So actually diving into this topic should be interesting. See where we end up. And maybe we can sort of, we have said, how do you create a business principle when you have more than one principle with your business? But it's your guiding force. It's what keeps you on the straight and narrow. If you're a little bit all over the place, that guiding principle is what you come back to. So what are do you have some principles in your business, Nomsa?
Yes,
Are you aware of? Are you aware of them? Have you created any? Or maybe there's some that they're there, but you've never really been aware of. So maybe it's a great time to sort of become aware of them.
I basically love it when you talk about business principles and values, and you say some of the principles, it might be that you basically don't want to lie, because a great leader basically removes fear from their clients. And if you lie to your clients and say, I'm going to do this, and you don't do it, then that means that you're not following the principles that you have created. For me, basically, I know that as a leader, my role is to basically remove fear from my clients, and is for me basically to help my clients to get to basically to where they want to be, even if they're in the dark place, for me to hold their hands and tell the truth that when they come and pay me money, and tell them the truth that I'm going to, when I say whatever I say to them when the contract is signed, that I'm going to hold your hands through the darkest places until the end. I have to mean it. I don't have to lie to them. I have to mean it. And to me, that is the leader. Basically, my company has to see opportunities in people. Even with clients, you'll be surprised. Sometimes I work with clients as my clients, and then I end up doing business with them, because you have to be a leader. Basically, when you create principles, you have to create your principles. You can't change them, but you have to create them in a way that in the world you see opportunities, because that's what basically, when you know the journey where you're going, you know the path when you want. Like I spoke about blindness from the beginning, and you know where you want to be, and your belief system as well. Your belief system basically your principles will be created by what you believe in, and your values as well. You spoke about values, Carol Ann, as well. That plays a very, very, very important part in your life, in people's lives. And when you create those principles, and you say, me, basically, I use the Bible, that God says in his Bible, in the Bible, that if you want to follow me, you have to be this. So for me, basically, if I want my clients to come to me, I have to be able to know that I can't lie to them, like what you said, and I have to be somebody who listens. That is my company values. Basically, in my contract, you cannot complain unless you come through me. You cannot write a written complaint, and even the staff, they know that before a complaint is written. If somebody rings and say, I need to speak to the owner of Hope Springs Eternal Introduction Agency because I'm not happy the way I've been treated, they cannot deny that person. They have to give that person the opportunity to speak to the owner of the company before they could make a complaint, because sometimes we make mistakes in life. So sometimes you might work with somebody within the company and that person makes mistakes unknowingly, not because they know. And when you make basically a complaint, that destroys the company if the owner of the company doesn't know anything about it. It's something, my values that I've learned along the way, that companies are being destroyed by the people that work within the company, seeing the way I'm being treated with other companies. And then you find that, because with Dean Grazias, I remember I registered with one of his coaches, one of the programs, but I didn't do the programs. I kept waiting because they said they'll get back to me, but they kept taking the money from my account. They kept taking the money. The money was coming through for a few months until I realized. So when I contacted somebody, he basically said, no, we're not going to help you because this they made an excuse. But then I basically wrote down and say, listen, can you show the owner of the company basically what has happened, because this is a mistake? So I need my money back. You don't have a right to take my money. But his values, he basically, and that person listened, and his values, he contacted me direct and said, listen, it's a mistake. I don't want a bad name in my company. And he actually refunded that money. That is one of his principles, honestly, honest. So for me, that is one of my biggest principles, is basically, if I want to be a leader, my principles, I have to listen to my clients. I have to be sensible about the path that I'm taking with the people that are following me. So I have to be a good example to them. For me, it's not about the money. I don't worship money. So I basically, my clients, if you go to my website, my clients tell me what to do basically. I know that without them, my principles is without my clients, I wouldn't have a business. So that's why at Ngozi Talk Show is the same. With everyone, I always say, if you have the idea that goes with my company values, I'm not stopping you to actually bring some changes within, you guys know that, within the company. So I basically, those are my principles, that I have to be a great leader and hold my clients and do whatever it takes. So those are two of my principles. Don't lie, listen to my clients. Listen, I'm listening to you. When you come and scream, like the other day, I was outside actually, and this guy, he wanted help, and then he comes in. So he was talking to me, and I was like, because I don't, every department, basically somebody does the other work, somebody does the other work, I don't interfere. So he was like, he was so angry, and I was like, calm down, it will get sorted out. Whatever it is, it will get sorted out. So it was like, so what is the problem? So he told me that what the problem was. So I went and got somebody that needed to sort the problem out, and that person sorted out the problem straight away. Because the people are angry. Some people are born angry. So you just have to have those principles of, I cannot react to you. I look after you. My job as the Hope Springs Eternal Introduction Agency staff is to look after you. I'm here for you. You cry. Just sit down and chill out. I was like, he's a giant. And I was like, oh my goodness, I could feel his anger. Carol Ann, over to you.
I love that. Listening to somebody, giving them the space.
Yeah.
Somebody's angry. There's something that's upset them, that's triggered them. And it's not making them wrong. It's giving them that space and holding it, and just holding it with love, because it will diffuse it far more quickly than you attempting to, be angry with them and fight them about it and calm them down. Just need to give them that space, and that loving space. And that's beautiful. And what you're doing there is you are treating people with high respect and courtesy. And that's what I'm hearing is a principle that you've got there, which is a really high principle to have. And which, if you think about it, would you like to be treated with respect and with courtesy? So you're treating people in the way that you would like to be treated. Being a leader definitely is a great business principle to have. And pursuing excellence, it's striving for it, it's going for it. It may not, it's not making wrong where you're at. It's just saying, well, is there another level of excellence I can go to? What more can I provide? Is my service, it's reviewing the service that you give and just go, okay, so how can I improve this? In what ways could I improve this? So you're constantly improving and moving towards excellence and going beyond what your customer actually expects. I believe it's a term called adding value. That term, it used to go in one ear and out the other ear, and I used to go, what? What do you mean by adding value? Well, it's just giving more than the customer expects. It's leaving them in a space where they've got more than they thought they were going to get. They've got something more than they had when they started. So, but it is going beyond what a customer expects. And that is, again, another great principle to have in your business. And if you have just those four, there's some really great guiding principles to have, because if anything happens, you can always bring yourself back to, well, am I acting on my principles here, or am I not? And if you're not, then you come back to it again. And what I'm hearing is that you value peace and harmony. And I love that, because it is about creating peace and harmony in the world, having harmonious relationships. And for your business, NOMSA, that's, important that somehow they can have that loving, harmonious relationship. It doesn't mean you can't argue. It means that you come to a place where you either agree to disagree, or there's an understanding that happens, but you don't fall out and fall apart because of it. You learn to dance in the conversation and respect someone else's point of view, where they're coming from. And so being loving and harmonious is a value that I'm sort of seeing with you and your business. And so I think for me, there's the difference between the principle and the value. Again, it's sort of words, it's just subtle differences, isn't it? For me, it's having that open mind. And I found a quote by Wayne Dyer. Having a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing seems to me to be one of the most basic principles that you can adopt to contribute to individual and world peace. So it's about having that open mind, being open, but you're not attached to anything. And for me, I love the quote that says a mind is like a parachute. It only works when it's open. Think about it. How open are you? How closed are you? So for me, that is something that I always come back to. For myself, it's like, okay, if something isn't working, I say to myself, right, Caroline, are you being closed-minded here, or are you being open-minded? It doesn't mean that you have to accept what the other person is saying. It's about listening and understanding what they're communicating, and then being able to have a conversation. So, open-mindedness is a principle that I really sit with, and that's something that I want to say I value as well. So being open to new ideas, being willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn are some of my guiding principles and values. I'm still, as you can hear, I'm still using those two words, the same things. I'm very aware that there's something here for me to get more clarity on, and I think it's just the subtlety of the wording. So if anybody's listening to this and wants to make some suggestions as to what they're hearing from what I'm saying, to what they understand principle and value is, I'd love to hear. Because again, it helps me to understand what you're hearing in this, what you understand me to be saying around what my principles and values are. So, and then also to hear what your principles are in your business and what are your values. And, you know, it's something to look at, but it certainly keeps me on that coming back to the path, to keep me on, say, the straight and narrow. I don't know exactly like the straight and narrow. I do like a windy path, you know, but it keeps me going in the direction that I want to. If I happen to go off the path, I can come back on it again, and it's okay. So Jimmy Carter said, now this is a long time ago, and it's so applicable right now. We must adjust to changing times and still hold to unchanging principles. Your principles don't change. Your values can change according to what's happening, but your principles don't. And times change. So you need to be willing to change in some way to still maintain those principles. So it's really important that you know what your principles are and be able to hold them here in your heart and be consistent, have that consistency with them. So what are you hearing here, Nomsa? What's coming up as we're talking?
I like it when you say principles cannot change, which is true. Principles cannot change because it means if they change, then that means because principles create business. Business is the foundation basically of the business. So if they change, if you change it whatever you want, that means the business will not stand basically. So I like it when you say basically the quote that we must adjust to changing times, but then the principles cannot change. And also having an open mind. I love that. The attachment is saying not to get attached to anything. I basically don't get attached. I have an open mind, but I don't get attached to my clients because I know that they are there for business. We are there for business. Once the business is finished, they can invite me to their wedding and I can dance because it gives me joy. And then I know that the work is done. But when I'm doing the work, you're not my best friend. We are doing business. I love you. We are doing business together. And my principles are basically you follow company principles, the rules until you get basically where you want to be. Because in that way, I know that if I give you love and making sure that you're following the principles, that means you get that. So, because with the dating industry, all sorts of things can happen. So, it means basically when you go out, you don't go to your date's house. So, those are part of company rules that when you go on dates, you say goodbye to the clients, you don't visit their home until you both agree to basically take it relationship further. So those are company principles. I like when you talk about pursuing excellence and going above and beyond. I think it's a very, very basically good principle to go above and beyond. And I love that. It's my favorite one, going above and beyond, basically, and basically focusing on gathering knowledge as well. I like gather knowledge, and when I go to a business event, basically, I think I did mention it before. Was last week that basically I take video because I know these people. They say, yeah, you can take pictures, you can take pictures of the content as long as you're not gonna put it on social media. So I take videos, I take pictures, and I store them on my social media private. It can only be accessed by me because sometimes the phone breaks. So I store it on social media but private. Whenever I want it, I go back and find it. So gathering knowledge is very, very important. And the other one that I like, Carol Anna, is giving before expecting anything. So those are my company principles, that you have to give before expecting something. And then if you basically you get paid, if you have that mind, the principle that I'm here to give, because when you provide a service, basically you are giving. So if you give from the bottom of your heart, you say, and that person will bring more people, the basically word of mouth. So those are good company principles to have, and knowing that as a leader, basically your job is to take action. Your principles, basically, those are the key, that you know that I'm here to provide as a leader. I'm here to give strength, the conviction, and everything basically comes into place when you know that my principles are this. My principles is to basically promote my products properly and have a good business plan as well. So that those are one of the good principles to have a good business plan, and allowing yourself to basically gather knowledge and keep taking action. Because if people that are your clients, if they don't know where you're going, your vision, so then because for me to know my vision, I have to, when the client comes to me, basically I have to know why I'm there. I have to serve them because my vision is to serve more people and getting the results. So if a client comes to me and they basically know that I'm going to get the results, and just talk, not to talk about it, just talk, but taking action as well is very, very, very important. And you spoke about communicating as well, understanding what they are communicating. Your clients, when they communicate, listen. Some people, basically, you'll be surprised that how many people in the businesses who don't listen. Basically, you buy their products, and when you receive the products, and if the product is not real, or basically you want to understand more about the products, and when you call, basically they don't want to listen to you. They want to tell you what they owe. Don't actually want to basically listen. So I like it when you say listen without judgment, without having to judge that person, and just listen to them, and having a mind of learning and unlearning things is a good one. Basically, we have to, as a good leader, you have to be somebody who is willing to learn, who is willing to learn and learn things if things are not working. And you've mentioned that as well, Carol Ann. I cannot tell you how many times that, speakers, coaches come in here to Ngozi Talk Show, and they talk about things, and you learn from people, different people. So every coach comes in and they speak. When they open their mouth, they are like, wow, I write down the notes. And it doesn't help you, because as a leader, you are open to learn. And those are part of my principles as well, because they are yours as well. So learning and unlearning things that are not serving me. Over to you, Carol Ann.
That's it. Being heard, most important. Have to unmute yourself. Being heard is a great principle I have, and it's something that's always sat with me. And as you say, people don't listen. There's nothing more distressing than not being listened to. And so for me, listening is a key. It's something I value, and for me, is it. So again, I'm still interchanging these words. The principle is actually being heard. For me, it's important that people are heard and understood. And to do that, you've got to listen. So those two things are really important, because listening isn't just hearing somebody. Listening is the active part of the hearing, because you're actually hearing their words, but you're also processing them at the same time. You are listening to their words and processing them. You're not going on in your own head, or what could I say next? Because that's not listening to what that person's saying. And then jumping in with, oh, well, I think this or I think that, because you haven't actually listened to the person. It's about then acknowledging what they've said so that they can then feel heard. You use their words back to them. That again helps them to feel heard. So for me, that is a really fundamental thing, is helping people to be felt that they're heard and they've been listened to. So can't remember where I was going with that to start with. But there was something else that you said. And I think something that also for me has become quite, again, it's a principle or a value, but it's something that has arisen over time, that I never gave myself time to find my words. I felt like I had to rush. And because I couldn't get them out quick enough, I couldn't find them, I would just then go quiet. And because others were then quick and they interject, and I just go silent. Whereas now I'm much more of a point of giving myself that time, commanding that time. There's still 11, there's still more work to be done on that. But I'm working on it. And that for me is a key principle. You need to be willing to work on yourself, to shift and open up new possibilities, and not just hold on to, well, this is how I do it, this is the way I am, so everybody has to change around me. Okay, that may be a principle that you have. How well does that work for you? How many people then just walk away? For me, the main principle is that I'm willing to acknowledge where I'm being and yielding and go, no, this is how it's got to be, because this is how I say it as. And when I'm then willing to work on myself and go, okay, this doesn't work for me, how can I make it work? So I think the main principle here is, how can I make something work? In what way can I make this work? I'm being open to change. But there was something, in integrity is the word. When you're saying that you're going to do something and you do it, it's being your word. It's having integrity. And for me, that is a key principle to have. And listening. Listening to one's body is something that's come up over time as well. Listening. Pausing. And going, okay, this cough is here right now. It wasn't here earlier before I started this call or this conversation. So for me, it's then going into, so what wants to be heard that hasn't yet been heard? What wants to be spoken that hasn't yet been spoken? And allow the words to come. So going back to what I was saying, it's giving people time to express themselves. Because I've seen so many people frustrated because it's like they're trying to get the words out, and then other people are putting words in their mouth. Oh, you mean this, or you mean that, and then they take the conversation away. And it's so frustrating. And I've seen it happen to students as well. And I remember being told I was wrong for slowing the pace of a lesson down because I was giving students time to talk and to share. And this was a particular class that was causing major problems and had been giving me major problems for most of the term until it started to settle down. And this one day, I was so pleased with them because they listened to each other. They weren't, going, oh, me, I want them shouting out like they used to do. They listened. But it meant I had to slow the pace of the lesson down so that the person that was at the front could get their words out and explain what it was they wanted to say. And then be able to acknowledge, yes, well done, and go and sit down. And I was absolutely thrilled with that class by the end of the lesson. But I was made to feel I was wrong. I was told I was wrong because the pace wasn't quick enough in the class, in the lesson. That's what loses them. That creates frustration, and then disillusionment and misbehavior. And I learned quite a valuable lesson there. It took me quite a while to think on that and think back and go, no, it's okay, there is nothing wrong. It was just someone else's. Their principle was, you've got to have a quick pace, fast-paced lesson for the students to learn. You've got to get through all this work. Well, actually, no. I've realized my principle is give people time to express themselves, to find their words, to say what they want to say. And that's the principle by which I work with people in my business now, to help them find their words, to say what they want to say, to write their book. So it's their words, it's their voice, and it's got their rhythm, it's got their tone, but it comes from them and it comes from their heart. It's not someone else who's gone, well, no, it's got to be said like this, this, and this. You need to have this sort of structure to it. It's not yours, not fully yours. So it needs time. And so I'm very much about the principle of giving something time. Be willing to take a breath and pause. Because actually, it's amazing what then happens. And all of a sudden, bam, it's done quicker than you thought you could do it. So it's beautiful because in this conversation, I'm really getting clear on what my principles are. Even though I've known them, it's being able to verbalize them and put them into context here. So thank you for this topic, Nomsa. Because I know it was in a selection that you gave me, and it was like I looked at that list and my eyes just went boom. This is the topic to look at. So so what else is coming up for you, or what are you hearing, Nomsa?
I actually like it, Carol Anna, when you say being willing basically to be heard. Basically, I think that's what we do it in Ghosted Talk Shows. Basically, we help people find their own voice and lead from within. Because when you basically, some people don't have a voice like myself. I never used to have a voice. I knew the words. I knew what I wanted to talk about. I knew what I wanted in the world. I knew my desires. And they're just saying it as I'm writing a song, and I knew everything, but I didn't have a voice within until I found somebody basically that helped me to find a voice, like someone who has patience, like you're saying that basically you understand that students learn different and you had to give them a slow, basically that slow pass for them to basically to get to what you were doing and to get the things that they need to do, because we are all different. Sometimes I basically see that sometimes the teachers they play very very important part in our children. Sometimes they can crush a child's life, or a teacher can just enter a child's life and be basically an angel, basically that changes that child's life just by having the principles of basically I'm gonna listen to this child, I'm gonna get to know this child. That is a great attitude, because a great leader has to have a good attitude. So if you put your principles like I'm gonna be a good listener, and the attitude you create correct attitude based on your leader, basically that means you understand it, because attitude is the products of your belief system that create confidence. It create confidence to your clients. It create confidence to you as well. Create confidence, basically the system that you have or you create using your attitude. It will play as it will be the critical component of helping people, because you're removing fear from people. As a leader, basically, you were able to recognize that I'm here to remove fear from these children. But although that person made you wrong, but those children will never forget that moment you helped. It's not about the teachers, it's not about people that are in charge. That's why I always say to people, if you are in charge of something, you have to do the work as well. You can't put somebody being in charge or a secretary if you don't know how to be a secretary yourself. So as a company owner, sometimes I do answer phone calls just to see the nightmares, and I do hear people screaming, and sometimes I have to pretend I'm not the company owner, and when they say, can I speak to somebody who is in charge, I'm like, you're speaking to that person. Is that no? So I'm like, yes. And they're like, oh, how are you? I'm like, you were about to scream at me. That's why you do screaming at my client, screaming at my staff. And like, no, 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 no. So I'm actually glad that your principles is like, basically, I'm going to remove the fear from the children by understanding their want, understanding their desires, and basically understanding the pace of their learning. That means basically it's a great principle to have, and because that it helps the children. I basically sometimes I look at people who have created their principles and I have entered their lives. And sometimes these people have no idea how much they've changed my lives just by being themselves and just by getting to know me and directing me to basically entering my life and playing a part that is important, and then they move on, but they don't know how much they've changed my life. And those part of principles, I love them, that people who just want to serve and motivate people, because you motivated these kids. You basically those principles that you've created in your mind and you're using them. Those were the school principles. You didn't basically, you went to school as a teacher, but you created your own principles in your mind. Somebody made you wrong for doing the right thing. But guess what? Get God glorified. Just seeing you helping the kids, he glorified. And I always say, when I help a client and the client is happy and somebody else is not happy, it doesn't matter. As long as they are happy, as long as the kids were happy, it doesn't matter, because that person that made you wrong God glorified just seeing you having this attitude of serving, having the attitude of giving as a teacher, that I'm here to give. I'm here to remove fear, because children can fear. If they don't understand something like what you are saying, my daughter, I asked her once, and she actually said to me, my teacher basically explains things very, very fast. And sometimes I want to ask the questions, but she basically blocks me out. I don't have a room, basically. She doesn't give me a room to ask the questions. So I had to go to school and explain that just maybe treat children as different because they are all different. So I was like, but her teacher did work with her, and then now she understands that sometimes if she's very slow, they do talk about things, and it's nice to see that relationship developing. So those are my actually beliefs, my principles, and that basically, when you basically serve somebody with the right attitude, you get the results that you want out of it, and that person gets the results that they want out of them. Basically, you see greatness in people and serving them with grace. Over to you, Carol, and I know it's 2 o'clock.
No, it's lovely. Lovely to hear, because actually, you know, I may have talked about pupils then, but I also talk about clients, and you
Yeah,
talk about clients. And
yeah,
it's not just teachers who don't listen or can crush somebody just by a comment. It's actually parents can do the same without
yeah,
realizing what they're
yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Friends can do it, your peer group can do it. So I'm, as much as yes, it happens, and probably because when you're young, teachers are the most influential person, you know, or say most, but they have a lot of influence over you, and you remember them,
yeah,
especially when you get those emotions. But it's also remembering that they're not the only ones that have that impact on you. It's friends, it's family, and it's recognizing when it happens, and it's being able to go, okay, that just happened. And that for me has become a guiding principle in terms of people can learn the lesson no matter how it's presented. It's not the topic or the subject that's being taught at the time. The lesson is what is happening in that moment.
yeah,
So you getting crushed in that moment, it's being able to go, okay, what caused me to feel crushed? What can I learn here? And
yeah,
that for me is really important. And that's what people need to be teaching or helping their, you know, children with. It's not just down to teachers to teach this. It's down to adults, to anybody that understands this, to impart it and to talk in that way and go, okay, not make the person wrong for crushing the other person, but saying, okay, well, what's the lesson that you can learn here right now?
yeah,
Because in that moment, you then, again, I go back to, you become creator of your reality,
oh,
and
yeah,
you can shift things. And you can then stand up and not be crushed in future, because, or you may start to feel it, but you can bounce back much more quickly, and you can then stand up for yourself and be able to communicate and hold a conversation that goes, well, no, actually, I disagree, or, you know, I hear what you're saying, and I believe this to be true.
yeah,
And this is actually how this has made me feel, rather than saying, you made me feel like this. What you said made me feel like this.
yeah,
It's understanding the subtle differences. Those are the things that I think are really important to be able to teach people, children, you know, and that's what I teach for my grandchildren. I teach them the subtle ways of standing up for themselves in language, because it's something that I've come to learn. And I wish I'd known before, because I certainly couldn't do it before. I didn't have the confidence either. But I think if you've got the language and that ability to say and understand what's happening for you without making the other person wrong, the conversation is a dance and it's not a butting up. Because as soon as you say to somebody, you did this to me, you put that barrier up, you know, or you shouldn't do that, you should, it's a boom, yeah, you can feel it. Rather than what you've just said made me feel like this.
Yeah.
It takes it away from it was you to it's what you said, it's the words.
Yeah.
That way, it's such a subtle shift, but it is so powerful, so powerful. And you can then help them to hear what they've said and understand the impact that's been had, and then go from there. So this is where I stand now, and I've really got a lot stronger in what I'm saying. And at one time when I used to think this, I thought, oh, I can't speak out.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I can. This is what I believe to be true.
Yeah.
And it was when I started to learn the difference between saying, this is the truth, and this is what I believe to be true. Again, a subtle difference. But people can't argue with you when you say, this is what I believe to be true.
Yeah.
Because you're not saying it's a universal truth. And that's where they can argue with you. And I realized, oh, yeah, when somebody, was questioning me when I said it as a universal truth, I went, oh, yeah. And so now it is a much more powerful place to come from. And people can't argue with you. Well, they can, but they can't make you wrong. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They can't.
So
It's so different, so different. So for me, this is something that's really important, to empower people to be able to stand up in harmony, dance in a conversation, and not make each other wrong and butt heads, and listen. It's being able to listen. So yeah, I think those are the key principles, because I do value harmony, the same as yourself, Nomsa.
yeah. Yes.
Peace and harmony. It's the fresh air, isn't it? It's a breath of fresh air. When you get peace and harmony rather than an argument.
Yeah.
So there was, yeah. So something I read, somebody had written, it said, if you're looking to create a timeless sense of purpose and to shape the overall mission of your life, use principles.
Yeah.
Because they're set, they're rules that don't move. So that's what makes it timeless. Whereas values can alter, because if values aren't in line with where you're at, you can then shift them and make other values more important than the ones you had before. And that's okay. But it's your guiding principles. And that's what makes it timeless. So if you're wanting to leave a legacy, I've just had a sudden thought. You want to leave a legacy? What are your principles that will make it timeless and see it through?
Yep. That's so true.
Yeah. So maybe let's leave people with, how do you create a business principle? I think maybe look at your values.
Yeah.
And it's saying, well, what's important? You ask yourself the question, what's important to me? Write it down. What else is important? Write it down. And just keep asking that question and digging deeper. And then put them in order. Look at, well, what's the most important? Once you've got a whole list, you then put them, so you get your top 5 or 10 values.
Yeah.
And then start looking at, well, what's an underlying principle in what my values are here? What is something that is so set in stone that is a rule? And get your principles. So work on that and, you know, be clear. What are your principles for your business and your life? Do they go together? Do they match? Or is there some conflict there? Are they in alignment or not? Because maybe if there's a mismatch, then that's where maybe where your business is not going where you want it to, or your life isn't going where you want it to, because there's this tussle going on.
Yeah.
So do have a look. Dive in, and we're here to support you. Get in touch, and we'd love to hear what you think about your principles are and what your values are, and how they equate to, you know, the business that you're in. So over to you, Nomsa.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Carol Ann. And I basically agree with you that you have to basically think about basically your clients and think about yourself, your vision, where you want to go, and then create your principles based on your values, beliefs, and because a business comes out through ideas. There's somebody who basically, for you to have principles, you have to have an idea, and then you create your principles. How are you going to serve people in this world and serve people with grace? And your principles basically goes with your attitude as well, goes with giving, understanding the power of giving as well, and basically knowing that you get there eventually wherever you want to go, and following your principles. Carol Ann mentioned that principles cannot be changed. Values can, as the time goes by, whatever you believe, even your beliefs do change. But principles is something that when you create a business plan and a cash flow forecast, it basically goes with your principles. But it cannot be changed, but it can grow, but your principles cannot be changed. So you have to sit down, have a plan, and create whatever you're creating, and watch your business grow, and wealth comes with it as well. Comes with whatever principles. If you create a principles that will not serve your business properly, wealth will not come. So wealth comes to principles that serves people, and you as well understanding the power of giving and receiving as well. You see now Carol Ann, she's here, she's giving her time, and also she understands the power of receiving as well. So live with grace, everyone. We are here Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time, and you can, if you want to get in touch with one of our speakers, go to our page, get in touch with one of our coaches, or if you want a speaker, and get in touch. And our coaches understand, they have their principles within the company that have been created. They help you find your voice. They listen to you. You've had Carol Ann, they'll listen to you, and they help you. Basically, you become your own leader when you work with one of Ngozi Talk Show's coaching. So live with grace, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. See you on Monday. I can't believe it's Friday. See you
I know.
Monday.
Where does the time go?
Yep.
Yeah.